As the golden sun dipped low over the Matobo Hills, its warm rays painted the cracked red earth and the ancient rounded granite boulders that watched over the land. A modest homestead, clay brick walls, thatched roof, and a swept yard sat quietly beneath the vast sky, surrounded by scattered acacia trees whose flat crowns whispered of wind and time. In the yard, a circle of guardian stones, each waist-high and etched with deep geometric carvings worn by generations, stood in perfect symmetry, streaked here and there with green moss. A dusty sedan rolled to a stop. Tawanda, a lean man with short, receding hair and a rumpled collared shirt, stepped out and hefted a duffel bag from the trunk, his movements clipped by tension. Mukudzei, slim and quiet, her medium brown skin glowing in the afternoon sun, short, tightly coiled hair haloing her young face, slipped out behind him. She wore a faded earth-tone t-shirt, knee-length shorts, and battered old sneakers. A simple woven bracelet wrapped her left wrist, her silent link to generations past. Her gaze shifted from her father's strained movements to her mother, Tsitsi, who emerged from the homestead's doorway. Tsitsi, eyes quick to flicker between worry and love, smiled gently as she took the basket from her shoulder.
"Mukudzei, help your father with the bags, will you?"
she said, though her voice held a hint of fatigue. Before Mukudzei could reply, Sekuru Dombo appeared, silver gray hair shining in the low sun, beaded necklace rattling gently. He lifted a hand in greeting.
"The hills remember every arrival, my boy. Welcome home."
Tawanda set the bag down, forcing a smile.
"We should have left earlier. The hills don't wait for anyone,"
he said, glancing at the sun's angle. Sekuru Dombo chuckled.
"The hills wait for us all, even when we think we're late."
As the day slid toward dusk, Sekuru Dombo led them to the heart of the clearing. The guardian stone stood sentinel, forming a perfect ring. The old man knelt, pouring a small libation of sorghum beer at the largest stone, chanting softly to the ancestors. Mukudzei crouched beside him, mimicking the ritual, her bracelet catching the last of the sunlight.
"Like this, Sakuru?"
she asked, tilting the gourd, but in her eagerness, she nudged one of the stones. It shifted, rolling awkwardly away and leaving a visible gap. Sekuru Dombo's chant faltered. Tsitsi frowned, tightening her grip on her basket.
"What was that?"
she asked, a note of alarm in her voice. Sekuru Dombo carefully adjusted the stone, but left a slight gap.
"We will talk more tonight."
he murmured, casting Mukudzei a grave look.
"I sense a disturbance."
That evening, as golden light faded, Tsitsi readied herself for a trip.
"I won't be long, Mukudzei. Keep an eye on the pot."
she called, waving her basket as she stepped toward the bush. Mukudzei watched from the doorway, her arms wrapped around herself.
"She always says that."
she whispered as her mother's figure was swallowed by the wild shrubs and the looming boulders. Night came heavy and restless. When Tsitsi had not returned, anxiety tightened its grip. Sekuru Dombo led the search, lantern swinging, voice echoing through the hills.
"Tsitsi, Tsitsi!"
he called, the wind carrying his voice away. Tawanda's face was drawn, jaw clenched in frustration.
"She's never done this before. She wouldn't just go,"
he said, the words more plea than certainty. Mukudzei trailed behind, guilt coiling tighter with every unanswered call.
"This is my fault."
she muttered, staring at the ground. Inside the homestead, the mood was bleak. Oil lamp glow flickered on mud walls as Tawanda turned to his daughter.
"This isn't a ghost story, Mukudzei. Something real happened."
Mukudzei, sitting on the woven mat, her hands locked around her knees, answered in a small, trembling voice.
What if I caused it? I moved the stone. What if that's why she's gone?"
Sekuru Dombo placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder.
"Child, there are forces older than all of us. Sometimes We are simply swept up in them.
In the morning, Sekuru Dombo gathered them by the guardian stones.
If the stones break their pattern, the doors between times open. It has happened before,
he said, his voice low and certain. Tawanda shook his head, voice rising.
We need sense, not stories. The police, someone must know something.
Mukudzei's eyes were wide, hope and dread mingling.
So, maybe she isn't gone? Maybe she's somewhere else?
That night, unable to sleep, Mukudzei crept from the homestead. Moonlight silvered the boulders and trees as she followed a faint shimmer to a massive granite rock. Crouching, she pulled aside grass and roots to reveal a narrow crevice lit by a pale, otherworldly glow.
If there's a door, let me find it.
She whispered, her bracelet glinting as she squeezed inside. The world wavered, and then she stumbled into a new day. A clearing of mud and grass huts greeted her, the guardian stones at the center, newly carved, their patterns sharp. Several villagers in traditional wraps watched from afar. Mukudzei, barefoot, stood opposite a proud, wary girl named Marunjeya. Marunjeya's eyes narrowed.
You wear the sign of the Guardians, but you do not walk our time.
Mukudzei's voice was urgent.
I'm searching for my mother. She disappeared after the stones moved.
Marunjeya's suspicion shifted.
Maybe the stones are the answer.
She said, leading Mukudzei through the village. By a row of baskets, Mukudzei gasped, recognizing her mother's.
This is hers. She's here, I know it.
A moment later, the world spun and Mukudzei crashed to the rocky earth of the hidden chamber, basket still in her grasp. Tawanda's silhouette filled the cave's mouth, eyes wide with disbelief.
Mukudzei, where did you go? How did you...
Mukudzei pressed the basket into his hands, tears brimming in her eyes.
It's hers, Baba. I know it's hers.
Back at the homestead, they found Gogopashu, the spiritual advisor. The old woman's eyes were deep and knowing as she turned the basket over in her hands.
Your mother is between worlds,
She intoned.
The guardian stones are misaligned and the ancestors are restless.
Tawanda shook his head.
There has to be a logical explanation. We can't just believe she's trapped somewhere else.
Gogopashu tapped her snuff container, beads clinking.
Not all that exists can be measured by logic alone. Sometimes you must walk where the ancestors lead.
Mukudzei's resolve burned brighter. She undertook more crossings, slipping through the hidden cave, chasing clues, shards of pottery, cryptic carvings, flashes of a desolate future Matobo. Each journey made her braver. She clung to hope. Finally, the family gathered at the stones on a stormy twilight. Wind howled, dust swirled, and lightning flashed. Sekuru Dombo lifted his stick, voice thunderous with the weight of many ancestors.
Set them right, child. The ancestors are watching.
Mukudzei knelt within the circle, shifting the misaligned stone. Gogo Pashu, beads and snuff container steady, chanted softly behind her. Tawanda hovered at the edge, hands clenched. As the final stone slid into place, a portal shimmered open at the center. Tsitsi's shape flickered within, arm outstretched, basket on her shoulder, eyes filled with fear and longing. Mukudzei's voice rang out.
Hold on, Mama. I'm here.
She lunged, grabbing her mother's arm. With a wrenching effort, she pulled Tsitsi from the vortex. The portal collapsed, wind dying suddenly, stones settling back into their ancient silence. Dawn brought peace. The guardian stones glowed softly. Mukudzei knelt at the center, placing the hand-carved stone, Marunjeya's gift, into the earth as a final seal. Tsitsi, exhausted but safe, sat beside Tawanda on a mat, clutching her basket, gratitude lighting her face. Tsitsi reached for Mukudzei's hand.
My brave girl, you brought me back.
Mukudzei smiled, tears streaking her cheeks.
And we will not forget. I promise.
Sekuru Dombo watched them all, a proud smile creasing his weathered face. Gogo Pashu's beads glimmered in the morning light as she nodded, content. The family drew close. Mukudzei, her bracelet bright on her wrist, stood tall among them. Guardian stones at her back, Matobo Hills and acacia trees rising on all sides. Ancestral song drifted through the dawn as the stones, the land and the hearts within it found peace once more. And so, balance returned to the Matobo Hills, a place where, when the stones were right, nothing was ever truly lost.